Hey, and welcome back, Tradie Business School, another episode of the podcast where we have real conversations and share insights and tips and how you can run your trades business more profitably, enjoyably, and easily. I'm joined by the amazing Bryan Santos again. How are you, Bryan?
Hello. I'm great.
Fantastic. So great to have you back. We're going to have a chat today about the profitable art of relationship building. So this conversation came up. We were talking about what are we going to record? What's going to land, or what could be of relevance to our listeners? And this was something that came from a group coaching session that we ran a couple of weeks ago. And one of the core elements that came out around how to build business. We were having a conversation around building business. One of the core elements that came out, and it was a theme over and over and over, was relationships and the importance of relationship building, and how ultimately when we foster and build great relationships, it builds profit in our business. So we're going to have a chat about a few different angles in terms of relationship building, perhaps a couple of things that you can do in this episode. But I suppose let's start with why relationships matter. What is the benefit to a business of building relationships? I'm going to start there, Bryan.
Yeah. From my point of view, relationship building is your foundation. Even if you do a lot of marketing, even if you're an online marketing business, believe it or not, a lot of what your foundation is as a business owner is the relationships that you have. And obviously, for those who are listening, whether you're in the trades business or otherwise, your relationships is going to not only be important just from a client perspective, but suppliers and your community and even at home. So understanding that there's probably a structure, if you call it that, or a way of actually building on that is going to be an important kind of, I guess, topic that we'll talk about today.
Yeah, totally. So much business will come from the relationships you build, and more than that, so many, those of you that are having hiring problems at the moment, relationships are key. So thinking about the types of relationships that you can build new business relationships, supplier relationships, staff, employee relationships. You can build relationships with affiliate type businesses, other businesses in your community. There are so many relationships that you can build that feed into the overall profitability and success of your business. Yet there's one thing that I've really been noticing that so many trades businesses are doing at the moment, and that is they're all on the tools. It's the age-old, I can't hire, and I keep getting drawn back on the tools at the moment. Weather is wreaking havoc in certain areas of Australia at the moment. I think even New Zealand's had some pretty rough weather. So if you're tuning in from New Zealand and wherever you are in the world, weather has a huge impact on many outdoor jobs. So then the business owner often is like, the sun's out, I need to claw back and get my schedule, and I'm going to jump on the tools. So relationships get left by the wayside. So they get focused in delivery. So there's a continuum, Bryan and I were talking about earlier, the continuum of delivery versus relationship focus. Yes. And I believe that every one of you listening fits somewhere on this continuum. So imagine relationship focus at one end and delivery focus at the other end, and just picture where you would be on that continuum in terms of your current focus.
Yeah.
It's thinking about, if you're down at that delivery end, it is unlikely at the moment you are investing in relationships I would say in the manner in which you really should be. And I use that word should be deliberately. I think relationships are something that should always be fostered.
Yes.
And they're not optional. They are something that are a necessity in business all of the time. So there's a couple of things that we've noticed in relationships, a few things. So one is many business owners or people will focus on maybe just a couple of key relationships and they don't build them elsewhere. So you almost build habits around, I'm just going to maintain this particular supplier relationship. and that's it. And you spend time there without diversifying, because maybe it's awkward to go meet new people or make that first phone call or put yourself out there. So you stay with what you know, ultimately not investing in relationships as you should be, and potentially shoot yourself on the foot in terms of opportunity and things like that. You think about it, people will refer to you if the more people that you have relationships with. Staff will refer people to work for you. People will talk about you.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was just going to say, Miranda, I talk about relationships, on breadth and the depth of your relationships. So the number of relationships is the breadth. So if you're relying on a couple of clients, let's say, for example, who provide you the majority of the work, and that majority of the work keeps you so busy that you're in the, in terms of that continuum delivery and relationship, you're in the total delivery, because and you don't have time or even the inclination to want to build more relationships because you're busy enough. Often what happens, or sometimes what happens, is those relationships with those companies either dissipate, or something happens to those particular companies, those clients of yours, and one or two reduces, and then you're stuck. You're in a tough situation. And who knows where the economy will go over the next few months. But if you're not diversifying, if that's the right word, or spreading your relationships, and getting more relationships, you could, or perhaps you've already experienced a bit of a lull because of the relationships that you hadn't built.
I think one of the wonderful things you said earlier, Bryan, was around consciously building your networks.
Yes.
So I think that probably is a great way to think about the breadth of and the depth of the relationships, as you so beautifully said. So how many and how deep and how connected are you, and how, well, I guess frequency would be another element I would add into there, as what is the frequency of the contact of the contact with, or is it an out of the blue thing here and there, or maybe when you only need something? It's around thinking consciously with awareness around the networks of contacts and relationships that you're building, and how you can continually expand. And so this is where you're going to start looking at going, where am I on this continuum of delivery versus relationships? We're not saying you've got to swing all the way and forget delivery and take yourself all the way to be this relationship building machine, because that therefore would create a deficit in the delivery, and you'd have unhappy customers and probably no revenue. So you've got to be able to deliver and fulfill that in which you're building the relationships around, and the intention of those. Yet I think for many of you, you probably need to slide along that scale and start focusing somewhere in the middle there, and making sure that you're consciously building those networks.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I talk about opening conversations. The more conversations you can open, and don't be afraid of it, of course, is going to be the foundation for building those relationships. And we're not talking about, even if you're an introvert or people who, type of person who doesn't like to, build new relationships, and you're pretty comfortable with the relationships that you have. I think even just being really basic about it is just open conversations, is a foundation of starting relationships. And the more people know about you, the more people who you connect with, the more opportunities, not just in business, but elsewhere will come from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And relationships require effort.
Yes.
They require effort. They require to be nurtured. I would see relationships as a little bit like gardens. It's a great metaphor for thinking about things. They need to be nurtured. They need to be fed and watered and paid attention to, or else you get weeds and the wrong things grow, and or inevitably the garden dies. It just slowly goes brown and dies. So a little bit like some of my succulents, believe it or not. But so we won't go there. So relationships require effort over time. You have to see relationships as an investment. And this is where long-term thinking comes in. You're investing in tomorrow. You're investing in next month. You're investing in next year. You don't know when you're going to need to draw on those relationships, or when those relationships will pay dividends. However, you continually invest, and then they let's go with this metaphor, accumulate interest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, they do. And it's they do require effort though. And one of the things that came up for me just then, Bryan, was around also to relationship building, is around not just making it about you. It is
Mm.
super important that relationships are built from a place of caring and considering and being interested in the other party.
Yeah,
Mm,
100%. I
mm,
think people sense if you're starting a relationship or you have a relationship that's where your intention is to get or to get value from them or to get business from them. People just become wary, whether or not they identify it consciously or not. People can feel it, people can become aware of your intention. So I guess what we're saying here is, in relationships, have the intention of giving without expectation, giving more than you take, just giving,
yeah,
because that people will start to I guess feel that you're a contributor to the relationship. You're a contributor to this. How did you refer it to? You're accumulating interest, so to speak, by giving more and more and
yeah,
more. So
yeah,
when you need to collect, you've already built a foundation to start collecting from
yeah,
them.
yeah. But Bryan, I don't have any time. I'm stuck on the tools, and are you saying that I need to go out there and give to others without getting anything back? I haven't got time for that.
You know what? I hear you, and I hear that often, to be honest. But it doesn't, like, building a relationship can literally be calling someone while you're driving in the car that you
Hmm.
haven't spoken to. Calling a supplier, calling a customer, and literally just saying, "Hey, how you going? I was just thinking of you."
Yeah, and asking a question.
Asking.
Into their world, into their
Yes.
world. I was thinking of you driving from A to B. I actually don't need anything from you right now.
Yes.
However, you popped into my mind. How are things going in your world at the moment? Ask after them. That's it.
You know how valuable that is? Just how many of you out there actually get calls from your contacts, whether they're clients or suppliers or even friends, that just call and just say, "G'day, how you going? What's happening in your world?" And just without any expectation. There'll probably be a few who are close to you that do that, but in a business relationship, how many actually do that
Yeah.
without any expectation?
Mhm. Reaching out and connecting human to human
Yeah,
and finding out and asking, how's business? What's going on?
yeah,
Anything, bouncing ideas, building relation, all of those things. Can we talk about how maybe we could help each other? Okay, what are your struggles at the moment? What am I? Anything. Build relationships. I suppose that leads us into one of the last points we were chatting about earlier, which is around asking.
yes.
You know, sort of dive into that one a little bit, Bryan.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of, I guess, who I am is about building relationships. Like, that's kind of my personality, and just how I've always done things, and giving without expectations and all that sort of stuff, and just being a giver in general. But what I've come to learn, and especially in a business sense, is that you have to ask, or in some cases, you have to build a muscle to ask. I think we mentioned this in one of the previous conversations that we've had, is that if you don't ask, you don't get. And it doesn't have to be a major thing, it could be little things, but without, I guess, moving forward in the relationships, and getting some sort of benefits, whether it's asking for business, or whether it's asking for a referral, asking for a contact, or just asking for help and advice. Asking is really the important bit at the end of all of this that we're talking about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just actually watched that in a local community Facebook page that I'm part of just yesterday. And an entrepreneurial young man put up a post, obviously within post group rules, it was
Mm.
fine, and offered to mow people's lawns and do some whippersnipping because it was a busy time of year, knowing everyone was busy. Now, everyone was like, yeah, yeah, me. So
Mm.
he asked for the business
Mm.
and he got the business. So rather than waiting for people to come to him for that, he asked for the business. So, you ask for the referral. And I would say that there's an opportunity at the end of of every job you do to ask for referral, to say, hey, do you think there's somebody else that would need this service or something like that you could refer? So you think about how you can do that, but you ask, definitely.
Ask for a review if you have Google My Business.
Yes.
You're on. Just ask for a review. This is not something that's again, some people are fearful of asking, especially clients who are paying them. But just asking, these are minor things. Trust me, to those customers, especially if you've done a good job. So asking for a referral, asking for a review, asking for a testimonial, a video testimonial, a written one, or whatever the case might be. Just ask, and then again, you're building the foundation of what's needed to grow your business.
Yeah, totally. It is one of those often the simplest and most overlooked things to do. So that's pretty much everything. A short, quick episode. However, don't underestimate the power of relationships. I know we jammed on this for at least an hour and a bit in one of our sessions recently, and the value of relationships. And certainly it was such a hot topic. So we wanted to bring this to all of you listening wherever you are. So thank you for tuning in wherever you are. Go out and build those relationships. That's pretty much all for now. Did you have any parting words at all, Bryan? Or
no, I think that's it.
We did it. So thank you, everybody. If you've not yet joined our free Facebook group, Tradies and General Contractors Global, jump on over there. It's a free Facebook group where, there's trainings and some resources over in there. Jump on over there, and you would love to see you there. Other than that, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.